Welcome to this tutorial of Photric NaviPdM system, which was designed to help you save time during your inspection jobs and most importantly, during your post-processing and reporting. When you use Photric NaviPdM, there is no need to go back and forth between your computer and your camera to load and unload the routes from your different customers. You can have one folder for every specific customer with their own assets and inspection tasks. Let me show you how to do that. The first step is to go to Photric NaviPdM settings. And on the first row, we will see the multiple folders with information of multiple customers. I can create a new one by tapping the name of it, or simply choose the one that I have previously created for this video. The camera will reset and load the information of that specific site or client. You will see that now I have nothing on my tasks and my asset list is completely empty. Let's start by importing some assets into my system. Once you have defined the folder for the specific customer, now you can bring the assets from the computer or from the camera. Now, for most part of the features and specific actions that I will show you today, you can perform them from either device. I will show each of them and you can feel free to choose whichever is easier for you. The first step is to remove the SD card from the camera where you have already created the folder for your customer. We're going to place it in the SD card reader that comes with the camera and plug it into the computer. After connecting the SD card reader to the computer, you can open Photric NaviPdM computer software. We will choose the specific camera that we're using today. And we will go to the Assets interface. You can see that it's completely empty. In order to import new assets, we can click on Import and choose the Import Template Excel file that you can download onto your computer. On this file, you can copy and paste the list of assets that your customer has provided or that you are taking from your CMMS system. All you need to do is to organize them in 3 different levels of organization or hierarchy. The first one being the location, the second one being the asset, and the third one being the inspection point. There is a 4th column called QR code. This is completely optional. It means that you can put the information that the camera will be looking in QR codes out on the field, but you can leave it empty. And once you start performing inspections, you can scan any QR code that is right there and link it to that specific inspection point. This asset that I have here is empty and this is how it comes from the system. I have one prepared already for our tutorial that contains about 1,500 assets. So you see that I have location, asset, inspection point, and I also have assigned some QR code numbers as well. Opening Photric NaviPdM computer software, I will click on Import, look for that specific file, confirm, and now the software is giving me the option to import everything or just part of what it is there. You will see that if I choose all of them, there are almost 1,600 assets. But if I'm only interested in selecting specific buildings, I can selectively choose the ones that will be brought into my system. Let's import them. And now they are in my system for that specific customer. To import the asset list from the Excel file or spreadsheet from the computer, we're going to use the same file which is now stored in the SD card, which I have already put back into the camera. We will go to the Assets interface of NaviPdM, tap on Add Inspection Point, and tap on Import. The camera will look for the Excel file and will show us all the different locations that are within that file. I can choose specific locations, specific assets, or the totality of all the assets that are there. These are about 1,600 assets. I tap on Save, and now for this specific customer, client XYZ, I have all of their 1,600 assets. If during your inspection you decided to create or add new assets by creating new ones, choosing the specific location, sub-location, and create some of them, let's say asset 1000, save. Now I have one more. I'm going to do a batch copy of them and create 10 of them. So I have 10 similar assets like those. I would also copy this entire location, batch copy, only once. And I will do the same with one with more assets, maybe this one. Batch copy and do it once more. Now I have more assets that I started my inspection with. This is a common scenario where the client doesn't give me all the original assets, but I find new ones during the inspection. Let me show you how to export the list of assets so you can provide that back to your customer. With the SD card back from the camera where you created the new assets on the field, back to the computer, we can find them and export them so you can share that list to your customer. In NaviPdM software, we will go to Assets Interface, look for Export button, and look for a location for the file. I'm going to use desktop, and that file is going to be called Export Asset. I'll save it. And when I open that file, we will see all the previous assets that existed. But if I search, I should be able to find all those that I created. The same way that you can import assets into the camera, you can also export those assets you created on the field from the camera back to the computer in an Excel file that you can use to import into a new system, let's say a CMMS. So with the SD card connected to the computer, we will open the Assets interface. Click on the Export button and choose a name for that file. The default name is Export Assets, but I can name it Client XYZ Asset List and save it. So when I open that, I will see all the assets that I created during my inspection that did not exist right here, organized by their location, their asset name or category, and inspection point, together with any QR code information if you scan QR codes to link with the specific inspection points. Now, a very important part of performing an inspection to help you save time is to preset the diagnostic rules that you will use. Whether you follow a national standard, a self-defined standard by your company, or let's say the NITA standard for electrical testing. You can create the diagnostic rules or standard that you follow from the computer and then bring it to the camera, or create it completely on the camera. Let me show you first how to do it on the computer. First, you will head to the diagnostics interface, click on the New button. We're going to name it and say, My Company Standard. I will set it as the default for most of the assets. Here, I will add the regions of interest that I will use for this specific standard. So let's say this one will be area. It's going to be a box. It will read the maximum temperature in that box. It will apply the delta temperature method, comparing with, let's say, atmospheric temperature, which is the one that you input during the inspection on the camera, or a similar component. If it's a similar component, and this is a fresh, brand new standard, there isn't one, so I'll create one by pressing the plus button. Let's say I'll use a spot and I'll name it reference. So now I have area doing delta t with reference. There are 4 different levels of anomaly in my system. By default, they're called attention, general defect, severe defect, or critical defect, but they can be changed in the settings. If I activate attention, which is the lowest one, I can say that if there is a temperature difference of 1.8 Fahrenheit, it's going to flag it as that. And the risk is, let's say, a low risk. On general defect, I can say that the threshold is going to be greater, 5 Celsius, or let's say something around 9 Fahrenheit. And this is a medium low risk. There are other additional comments that you can create here for, let's say, action. Inspect as time permits. And solution, you can also add that. I'll confirm, and now my standard is ready. I will save this and complete the other 2 standards on the camera. But before I do that, I'll show you how to rename your levels of severity. So let's click on Save, Save, Settings, and here defect level, we're going to change those. So a defect level 2 is a low. So I'll name it by priority. So this is a priority 4 for me because it is low. And this one is a priority 2. The next one will be priority, I apologize, this is 2 and the previous one was from 4 to 3. I'll leave the last one so I can show you how to do it on the camera. So let's unplug that SD card and put it on the camera. To continue setting up our diagnostics rule, we're going to open the diagnostics interface, go to my company standard, choose area, which is the specific one where we're working. You can see that the names here already changed, priority 4, 3, 2. Now this one is not set up yet, so I will enable it and say that if the temperature difference is greater than, I don't know, let's say 30 Fahrenheit, I'll code it this as a high risk, and I will recommend to replace immediately. Okay, you can also create a solution. So now I have priority 4, 3 and critical defect already enabled. I'm skipping priority 2. I'll save that. Let's see, what did I miss? ROI, area, oh, reference. For some reason it was not selected. Save, so now I'm doing delta between these 2. Save, and let's do a change on the defect level names as we were doing on the computer. So critical defect, I will call it, let's say, priority top 1, just to change the name so you see the differences. Those are my levels of priority, and here is where part of the magic starts. Now that I have multiple standards, I can decide which assets I'm going to apply those standards to. So let's say that all of them are electrical equipment and I'm following the NITA standard for electrical testing. So I will just apply to all of them. But if that delta T or company standard that I created only applies for certain types of assets, let's say the main switchgear room where everything is electrical and I'm following that, I will apply only to those 104 assets. I'll save it, and now every time I inspect any of the main switchgear room, they will have, as we will see here, my company standard as the diagnostic rule to assign the level of severity. When you're performing a thermal imaging inspection, there are certain results that come from the temperature readings, but there are also comments that you want to add based on your experience and the type of issues that you have found. To do that and to enrich your inspections and your final report, you can preset different types of statuses or notes that you can choose from while performing the inspection. Let's start with the notes. Once again, you can do this on the computer or on the camera during an inspection, before or after. So on the computer, we will go to Settings on NaviPdM, look for Custom Notes. You can choose any of them, and let's start by the first one. I will enable it and say problem or problematic item. And I will say it can be in the main switch gear, it can be in the bus bars, or it can be in the bottom connections. So now every time that I take a picture, I can indicate out of what I'm saying in which specific part of a cabinet, let's say, which specific component is showing an anomaly. I'll confirm that, and I will create one more. So let's say that you also perform visual inspections, something that is completely not related to thermal readings. So in my visual inspection, I will say I found burned endings. I also found evidence of animal presence and, I don't know, missing insulation or faulty insulation. Confirm. Now you can add all sorts of notes. If you perform building inspections, you can also add the type of notes or findings on what you typically find that you don't want to type on the camera and simply choose from a drop-down menu. So that is the custom notes. You can also set statuses on equipment that did not allow you to take a picture, so that at the end of the inspection, you can show that you went to the asset, but for some reason you could not capture an image. That can be found in inspection status. In inspection statuses, you can say it was not running, or let's say it was locked out. Let's say it also that could not find. Not found. Whenever we choose these during the inspection, the camera will mark it as inspected or visited, but there will not be a picture of it. So after finishing this, I'll remove my SD card from the computer, bringing it back to the camera, and I'll show you how to do the exact same thing, but now from the camera, if you happen to do this during your inspection. So here in NaviPdM settings, we can see that we're performing notes and statuses for client XYZ. Let's choose custom notes. We already have problematic item with 3 options, and I want to add an additional one. Let's say I found problems in the fuses. So now I have 4 options, and save. And during my visual inspection, the most typical thing where I am is for mechanical, let's say, over greasing. And I will set that as a default because I see it in pretty much everything in this particular customer site. So you see the check mark right there, save it. Now let's modify the inspection statuses. The inspection statuses that we created in the computer were 3. but I can add one more. Let's say that I don't know, it was removed, and I'm getting this information from the electrician that is coming with me during the inspection and say, well, we don't have it anymore. It was replaced or completely removed. So now I have 4. Once I start an inspection, which right now is empty, I'm just going to do a quick one and choose one particular inspection point out of many. I'll choose 100 from that specific location. And I start my inspection, let's say in the water heater area. Here I have my reference, I have my area from the standard that I'm using. And now I can also choose. It says not inspected, but I can tap here and say it was locked out. And then I can move on to the next asset. No picture was needed. For this one, I can say I couldn't find it and no picture was needed. Let's say that for this one, I did find it and I will take a picture. The picture has been frozen and I will tap on the third icon where I have custom notes. Problematic item. Let's say it was found in the bottom connections. And during the visual inspection, as you see, overgreasing is already selected because I define it as the default. But let's say there was missing or faulty insulation. You can also, from the custom nodes interface, add information about the load. Let's say that this component was rated for 15 amps or even more, but the reading from the ammeter was 10. So this asset was running at 60% load. Confirm. And now the picture is still frozen but not saved. I will press the picture taking button. I will confirm whether I want it in the report or not and save it. And now when I go see those images, all that information is right there and it will go as well into the report. Now your NaviPdM is almost ready to start the first inspection. And remember, this is a one-time operation. Setting up your diagnostic rules is not something you have to do for every single inspection. And the same applies for custom notes or inspection statuses. All of these will be created once and applied to your assets, and all you have to do now for new inspections is to define the inspection tasks. An inspection task is the list of assets out of your entire asset library that you want to inspect in a given instance. This can be a yearly inspection where you add all of the assets, or let's say a monthly inspection for critical assets that you want to monitor. So to do that, we're going to go on the computer to the tasks section. We will create a new task, which can be the annual inspection. We get to choose who is going to perform the inspection. So let's say it's going to be Fernando, level, let's say you can choose, you can define the system as the expert, but you can assign these to people with less experience that now will trust your knowledge put into the system for them to follow everything that you have set up. So these are his credentials and the information of the client will be client XYZ, plant somewhere in Texas, let's say. And the address, let's say just keep it simple, like that. All right, now this inspection task has been created, but it has no inspection points whatsoever. If you have already created your asset list, either manually or by importing them, you can import them into the task. If you haven't, you can start with an empty inspection task and add them or create the assets as you go. Let me show you the first instance. Let's go to the annual inspection, or whatever you named it. Click on Details, and we will import those new assets. By new assets, I mean the new assets to the task. I can choose all of them, almost 1600, because this is my annual inspection. And now this is ready. But I also want to create that monthly inspection of critical assets. So I will do that, change the name and say monthly inspection. The inspector of this one is going to be a different person. So it's going to be my good friend John. He's also one of our techs. The same information of the same client because he's the new person assigned for this job, same customer but new job. And here in the monthly inspection, I will only import some critical assets, which can be from a specific location. Let's say this one's right here, or the entire sublocation. So for this one, I have only 6. I will import them, and then I have a large task and a smaller task. Now, I would like to show you how to do that on the camera. Once again, the flexibility of NaviPdM allows you to work without having to combine these two devices, the camera and the computer. You can work in whichever device you prefer, giving you completely freedom of going to a site and do absolutely everything from the camera. So here we have the 2 inspection tasks that I created on the computer. One with almost 1,600 assets, the other one with just 6. To do the same thing from the camera, we will go to Tasks, tab on Adding, and let's say this is my 2025-1, the first inspection of the year, the first quarter. I will assign that to this person. Is for this particular client. I can have multiple clients right there. And again, this inspection is empty. So let's decide what I'm going to bring. New will help me create assets from scratch. Import will let me choose from my asset library. So let's say all of them. Right here I have a few more. And let's just do save. Now that all the assets have been imported, I'm ready to go and perform my inspection. I start the inspection and I will choose which of the 1,600 assets I'm starting with. So let's say I'm in this particular one, or I can search the specific one and say, I don't know, something called asset, which I believe I have a few. Let's say here, Hall 3, maintenance room, there should be an asset somewhere, asset 433, yes, that one. So panel P26 left, I start the inspection, and then this one, I cannot inspect it. So I'll tap right there and say it was locked out. By doing that, the camera will mark it as inspected just without a picture. I will press the down key to move on to the next asset. For this one, I'll take a picture. Let me open the lens for a sec. So I'll do this with the light. I'll take the picture, position my boxes where I need them, add a few notes maybe if I need, and save the image. I do want to use it in the report, so I hit on yes. Now what happens here is I will go back and finish this inspection. It says that I'm still missing 1,585 inspection points. After finishing the inspection, you can see that 2 out of 1,587 assets were inspected. If I want to duplicate this inspection to perform it again, or only part of it, I can tap on the 3 dots, copy. Let's say I'm coming back on the 2nd trimester of the year, and now I get to choose which of the assets that I inspected I want to repeat. I want to make sure that I choose the ones that were not inspected. So at some point this year, the pictures are taken. So I'll choose inspected. I'm okay with the normal one, but I do want to make sure that the one that was locked out gets inspected this time. So now there's only one. I'll choose the location, or I choose the specific asset. I will choose everything. Save. So now you see that my 2025-2 contains only one asset that hasn't been inspected, and then I'm ready to go to perform that inspection. And here we go. After we have completed the inspection, we're ready to generate the report. This is a very straightforward process because all the diagnosis criteria that you designed has already been applied to every asset. So the moment you took the picture, the camera already assigned a specific diagnosis. You can also have added additional notes that now will appear on the report so that the time you spend on the computer is almost minimal. Now, we're going to the report section or the task section. In the report section, you will find the report templates. Report templates are the 3 standard ones that come with the system, or a customized one that we can help you set up or that you can create yourself. To do that, you will click on import, bring it in, and then you will see it. But let's start by doing a specific inspection here. So let's choose this one, 2025-1. It has 2 assets that were inspected already, and we will check into the details, see the assets that are here already, and create a report. The camera will ask me, the software will ask me to choose which template I want. I will input the name and location and click on generate. The software will generate the report, which I will find in the report section. From here, I can download or visualize that report. Something else that can happen when you are generating a report is that you don't want to report on everything that you inspected, but only on a specific and normal assets. Or even more, you only want to report on the top priority assets that you found today. You want to create a quick report to hand to the customer today before you leave. You can do that from the computer, but I want to show you how to do it on the camera. After completing the inspection task, I can create a report right from the camera, whether it is from the totality of the assets or from a portion of them. On this inspection task, I only have 2 inspection points completed out of 1587. From those 2 inspection points that were completed, one was normal and the other one was locked out. Of course, I don't want to report on the locked out one, probably I just want to report on the normal one. So I will filter that one, you will see it here, and I will only create a report from that specific one. Tap on report, I will choose one template, which can be this one, name the file, save it, and the camera will create that report for me. I can go and view it. And in the same NaviPdM interface on the report section, you will be able to find that report. Now, the report is created based on the template that you have chosen or that you have designed, so that the specific pieces of information that you have selected will show there. Information like the specific location, who created, who did the inspection, the thermographer, who is the customer, the equipment that was used. A summary of the findings. For this report, I only exported 1 inspection point, which was normal, and the specific pictures were taken. This is our light here at the studio, containing the information of the asset, the panel ID, asset, the temperature information, the defect category, etc. and etc. And again, The outline, the amount of information that you will see here is completely dependent on the interface, of the template that you use. I will show you one more example. This one right here, I will create a report using a different template. Let's go to view it now. It has completed the generation. Now when I open it, this is a different template with a different outline. Here the information of the client is on the first page. There's a different image, the definition of my standard. And here in the summary table, I have that specific asset that was normal. The pictures are in a different position of the page, and it's a much more simpler report. You can see here, for instance, some of my notes over greasing, part of the recommendations, but it can be something else. So again, you are free to play with your reports and your templates, and you are free to create reports right from the camera. The same that I'm doing here, you can do it on the computer. This is just a more convenient way of doing it. We're standing right now in front of a dummy electrical panel. This is what you're using just for demonstration purposes. And I will show you how to create a new inspection point right from the camera without the need to going back to the computer to do all that process and then synchronize with the camera. This is how you do it. First, I will start an inspection task. Today I'm using this one. You can see that there are already 1,575 inspection points, but I might want to create a new one. So if I'm in this interface, I will tap in the asset list of today's inspection job. I will tap on the add new inspection point, and then I get to choose whether it is in the same location, which is probably the case, or in a different section of, let's say, that building. So let's say this is the steamer. Then I get to choose the inspection point, which I can name from whatever is labeled with. So I'll name it Asset 203. If there is a QR code on site, I can also use the QR code that is on the asset so that the camera quickly finds it in the system and it will bring the presets of that specific inspection point. This is completely optional, but it does make your job much easier. This is how you do it. I will go to the QR code section and open the QR code scanner. By aiming at the specific QR code, the camera will recognize that text and you will put it in that section. I can also do the same with barcodes. And now the information of the barcode appears right there. After setting up the diagnostic criteria for this inspection point, I can save it. It was already saved. And I will start the inspection on that specific one. So let's open it, this one right here, start the inspection. Because I applied the NITA standard, there is already one spot which is going to serve as my reference and one box which I have named area when I created the standard. Now I'm ready to perform the inspection. If at any point I'm in a different location, any of the ones that you saw earlier in my inspection list, I can simply open the QR code scanner, aim it at one of the specific tags that I have there. Today I used the barcode. Now the camera has recognized that this barcode belongs to asset 203. I'll confirm, it brings me there, and now I have my spot for reference and my box called area to perform the inspection. Now that my camera knows where in the entire plant I am and all the presets of that specific asset have been preloaded, I am ready to perform the inspection. Now remember, this is a dummy electrical panel and it's just for demonstration purposes. So we're going to open, and now I'm going to do a general scan with my camera. And once I find something, I will position my reference spot and my area in the specific components of interest. So I'm doing my general scan trying to identify hotspots, and there is something that calls my attention right there. You can see that I can focus by tapping anywhere on the screen, And now I can bring this box to a specific area of interest. My reference spot can be anywhere where I need. And you can see that the camera is telling me that this is a priority 4 or priority 3. Depending where the camera is standing, those values would change. So once I'm ready to take the picture, I will press the freeze button, and now the camera will allow me to create additional nodes like the asset load. Say this is a 20 amp, the rated current is 20 amp switch, and right now it's running at 15. Based on the problem that I'm identifying, it might be in the bottom left clip. And I can also decide whether this is going to be used in the report, this picture, or not. I press the picture taking button once more, and now the picture is saved. It's labeled as priority 4, and I can move on to my next asset. Another interesting feature of NaviPdM is that it allows you to compare today's temperature data with previous inspections without going back and forth to reports or to your computer data. All you need to do is to tap on the historical button and you will have access right there. Let me show you how. Say that you're identifying a delta T between these components and this reference spot of about 11 degrees. And you're not sure whether that is something normal for this specific asset. So you tap on the historical data and you will have access to the 3 previous inspections. You can notice that in the first 2, the temperature difference between the 2 of them was pretty similar and stable, while the last one was quite wider. I'm going to take the picture now and see if that changes. I'll use this in the report and tap on the historical data, and it seems like today is a little bit narrower. If I want to access to the results of those specific moments where I had priority 4 or priority 3, I simply tap and I will see those pictures where priority 3 was triggered, or tap right here and we'll see the pictures when priority 4 was triggered. I can open any of those pictures, and if, let's say, I modify the position of the box, you can see the diagnosis changes. I'll save that. And when going back, now this picture that was here disappears and it starts showing right there. After refreshing, these numbers will be updated and then everything will go back. Once I freeze a picture, I can add custom notes as in the form of drop-down menus. Let's say that I want to add comments on the visual inspection that I'm performing, where I can say that, let's say there was a burnt ending. And I can also identify problematic items, let's say that it is in the main disconnect or in the bottom left clip. That information and many more that you can preset on the camera will go to your report. An additional custom note is the asset load. You can input the rated current. Let's say this is a breaker rated for 20 amps and today's reading is giving me 18. So the load ratio is 90%, and that is also information that will go into the report. After the notes have been added, I will press the picture taken once more. The camera will ask me if I want to resend the report or not. I'll say yes, and I'm good to go for the next asset. When performing an inspection of a specific asset, you might want to take different or multiple pictures that will provide you with additional context or that will serve you as a support in case further information on the asset or your inspection is needed. You can take a general picture and then zoom in into specific components. Or a component like this, a panel like this, might have multiple specific faulty components and you want to report in several of them. Now, not all the pictures that you take, you want to include them into the report. This is how you interact with the camera to let it know. Let's say that I want to do a general picture of all the components. And when saving, I say, I don't want it into a report, but I want to zoom in a specific area. Let's say this one right there. and position my boxes in a way that provide further information. And this one, I want to use it in the report. When I press on the gallery button of this specific asset, I will see all the pictures that I have taken of the same asset, and a blue icon will indicate which ones will actually go in my report. This can also be changed later when you're working on the computer software. If you change your mind about any of the pictures you have taken, and let's say you do want to include that into the report, you analyze it and you tap the Include in the Report icon, which will turn into blue. By pressing back, you will save it. And now that means that all 3 pictures with the blue icons will go into your report. Photric NaviPdM comes with a special feature that utilizes artificial intelligence to recognize the specific location of the objects that were previously inspected. This is particularly useful when you're dealing with large switches or mechanical equipment. This is how you use it. First, you will go to NaviPdM settings. Turn on the AI recognition. After doing so, when you're going to take a picture of a new asset, let's say one that has not been inspected, we'll focus. It's very important to get it properly focused and adjust the position of the objects. After saving the picture, next time you perform an inspection, which can be today or another day, I press the AI key or press the AI button on the screen. This will lead the camera to look for the same component that was inspected previously and place the box right there. So even if you move the screen, the AI box will track and lock onto that specific asset. So the diagnosis is given on the exact same position or component than the previous time. Even with changes in angles and distances, the box is completely dynamic to recognize those differences and remain locked onto the component.